Prick up your ears.
The sound of DTM.
My car sounds like music to my ears.
My favorite sound when the car is leaving the pits.
My favorite sound, the cheering of the fans. Crank it up.
My favorite sound? The silence before the lights go green.
Full blast.
Downshifting from full speed. When I rev up my engine to its absolute limit. Too close to cool. Cheering on the podium.
Be aware.
It's gonna be loud.
Hello and welcome to Zandvoort. We're here in the Netherlands and it's the 5th race weekend of the DTM season, and that means half-time. And Zandvoort certainly is a beautiful circuit, but it's also very challenging because it's embedded into the dunes right across from the beach, and that means, of course, when it's windy, the sand comes over onto the circuit and that makes it even more challenging. Well, it's definitely a very exciting race weekend. Here are the highlights. Enjoy.
And as we sweep in over the really rather inviting North Sea, the Zandvoort racetrack is embedded into bays and dunes. And after the race weekend at the 4.3-kilometre circuit park in the Netherlands, it'll be clear who tops the standings at the midpoint of the current season. Marco Wittmann is overall leader again after P4 and P6 at the Norris Ring. His RMG teammate Timo Glock is in 11th place overall after P9 in Sunday's race at the Norris Ring. The BMW youngster Antonio Felix da Costa took 2 championship points at the Norris Ring and wants to boost his total in the Netherlands. The Mercedes driver Robert Wickens was toppled from his perch after retiring on Saturday and finishing P11 in Sunday's race at the street circuit in Nuremberg. Christian Vittoris was also unlucky after his collision with Robert Wickens and Matthias Ekstrom in Norris Ring on the Saturday, but the German Mercedes driver has switched to attacking mode again. Gary Paffett has won in Zandvoort 3 times, most recently in 2010, and Jamie Green is buoyed by a 2nd place at the Norris Ring on Saturday. He aims to collect more points to fight his way up the standings from P4. Eduardo Mortara sealed the first triumph for Audi since 2002 at what they call their home race in Nuremberg. Travels to the Netherlands as overall 2nd, only 2 points short of Marco Wittmann. Matthias Ekstrom had tough luck at the Norris Ring. After a collision and a grid penalty on Saturday, he had to retire on the Sunday. However, he's the record holder in Zandvoort with 4 wins. Maybe the race comes at the right time for him. Here's the grid for race 1 here at Zandvoort. Robert Wickens' pole position has had 3 podiums already this year. Marco Wittmann, the championship leader, is alongside him. Christian Vittoris and Gary Paffett make up the all-Mercedes row 2. Then we find Brit driver Jamie Green going from P5 and Eduardo Mortara, who's 2nd in the points, is alongside him. Then it's Esteban Ocon, the DTM rookie, good quality from him, and Antonio Felix da Costa. Matthias Ekstrom and Timo Glock share row 5 of the grid here at Zandvoort for race 1. Then it's Adrien Tombe and Maxime Martin going P11 and P12. Daniel Juncadella and Maximilian Gertz, 2 Mercedes together on row 7. And on row 8 we find Martin Tomczyk and Bruno Spengler, 2 former champions there. And we stay with former champions as Mike Rockefeller and Timo Scheider are on row 9 of the grid. Paul Di Resta and Lucas Arago P19 and P20, 2 Mercedes-Benz cars together on row 10. Then it's Tom Blomqvist and Nico Muller. Muller, of course, a winner already in 2016. It's Miguel Molina and Augusto Farfus bringing up the rear of the grid. A fabulous shot of the circuit park Zandvoort. Then from our helicopter, Matthias Ekström goes from P9 on the grid. He's had many victories here at Zandvoort. P9, surely that will be a big ask.
From P9 it's rare that you win races, but we will go at least have some fun and try to overtake some cars and see how far up front we can come. But the good thing with the new DTM format, we have a new try tomorrow.
The pole sitter is the Canadian racer Robert Wickens, probably just the tonic he needs after a torrid Norris ring.
There was really nothing negative about our performance at Norris ring. We were quick. We could have challenged for a win on Saturday and a podium on Sunday, and we left with nothing. But yeah, we just kept the same approach this weekend, and we have a great car here today, so hopefully we can try to score a win.
Well, Robert Wickens' aspirations for the race clearly identified. Sharing the front row with him is the BMW driver and points chart leader Marco Wittmann. There are many that would argue that actually starting P2 on the grid can sometimes be better than P1 here at Zandvoort. Let's hear from Jens Marquardt, head of BMW DTM now.
Marco is leading the championship. He's starting P2 in front row. So the first goal is to obviously do a good start, maybe end of the first straight be first, and then try to do the best race we can. And all the guys behind will obviously try to score as many points as we can for BMW. That's the main goal.
Christian Vitoris will rue his luck at the street circuit at Norris Ring. Came away from there with a P10 and a P15. Could have been so much more for the Pink Panther liveried Muka motorsport driver. His pace would suggest he has high hopes here at Zandvoort. He goes from P3 on the grid. And joining him on the second row is the British driver Gary Pafford, going from P4. So a very healthy row 1 and row 2 for Mercedes-Benz, and let's hear from their head of DTM now, Uli Fritz.
I think there are three main issues here. First of all is really getting through the first corners. Secondly, managing the tires, because the asphalt is really abrasive and aggressive. And third of is doing no mistakes on this very demanding track. And then you should be good here.
2 P2s and a P3, the best to show for the season so far for Jamie Green. The first win has been elusive, but he's the best Audi driver in qualifying and starts the 9th race from P5 on the grid. And riding high in the points is Eduardo Mortara. Another successful Audi driver in qualifying, because he goes alongside the British driver Jamie Green and starts P6. Let's hear from Dieter Gas now, head of DTM at Audi Sport.
I'm close to say the qualifying result was kind of a nice surprise, because we had our problems in the morning with pace, but in the qualifying things came together, and with P5 and the 6 on the grid, I'm not completely unhappy, and the good thing about it is that we lose some weight. So we should be in an attacking mode for the race today, and in particular in the qualifying tomorrow then.
So this old school circuit at Zandvoort affords some wonderful vantage points from which to watch the race action for the spectators in the dunes as we head into the garages of Mercedes-Benz first of all, and then those of BMW and indeed Audi ahead of the start of race number 1 here at Circuit Park Zandvoort, DTM 2016. Lights out, let's go racing. Robert Wickens will dive to the inside to protect the inside line from Marco Wittmann as Maximilian Gertz appears to run into Adrien Tombe further down the order. Let's focus on the start here, very nearly 3 abreast with Gary Pafford, Jamie Green and Christian Vitoris, and Eduardo Mortara in the mix as well as they go through turn 1. Here's the turn 2 kink. It's Christian Vitoris leading from Marco Wittmann. Christian Vitoris, then it's Gary Pafford as they go through turn 3 at the back of the paddock here, and then head to the back part of the circuit at Circuit Park Zandvoort. And there is Adrien Tombe, and there is Maximilian Gertz, both seemingly out of the race. The safety car is deployed before one lap is even completed here. Let's try and ascertain exactly what happened. Adrien Tombe appeared to be slow away. Maximilian Gertz was okay until there. He just gets a little shove from Martin Tomczyk, which pushes him into the side of the slow-moving Adrien Tombe car. We can probably see it better from behind here. Yeah, there's the touch on Maximilian Gertz, and he into the side of Adrien Tombe. Let's hear from Maxi now.
I had a very good start. Martin in front of me was a bit sleeping. I pulled to the middle and then I got a hit from behind, so it's not my fault, I would say. We have to analyze that. We have to see the pictures, what's happened. But the car is badly damaged on the left rear. Exactly this part where I touched the wall in the qualifying, so it's really, really bad.
Yes, an off in qualifying as well as an off in the race for Maximilian Goertz with damage to his car. Adrien Tombe caught up in this incident as well, though, and it's not just damage to his car.
First of all, I can see your arm is being iced. How is your arm? What happened?
Well, I don't know yet. Just trying to take the best possible way to improve that. I just got touched by Maximilian, and that was a big hit on the steering wheel. And I was not ready for that. So that's it.
Jens Marquardt looks on from the BMW RMG garage then, as in replay here we can see Nico Müller and Augusto Farfus getting together. See it from on board the Tom Blomqvist car as bits are flying off. As we resume racing once again, it is Robert Wickens that is leading the race, and after the safety car intervention we get the race going properly. Wickens, Wittmann, then it's Vitoris, Gary Paffett, Jamie Green, Eduardo Mortara. Then the order on screen for you as they go through turn number 1, the Tarzan turn here at Zandvoort. Racing resumes. Order on the left-hand side of your screen. Into turn 3, Robert Wickens, Marco Wittmann and Christian Vitoris. So Wickens already beginning to pull out a bit of a lead over Marco Wittmann, which is exactly what he needs to do. What he's trying to do is break the DRS 1 second gap that Marco Wittmann is desperately trying to stay within. We're on board with Eduardo Mortara, who's running down there in P6, with Jamie Green in P5 ahead of him, and looking back from the brilliant onboard shots that we're able to bring you. So Robert Wickens then 8 tenths ahead of Marco Wittmann through the chicane around the back of the paddock here, and Christian Vitoris edging ever closer to Marco Wittmann. Christian Vitoris running in P3 in the all pink colour scheme. Robert Wickens leading though from Marco Wittmann. Gary Paffett then, Stoik in P4. Two Brits together there, P4 and P5, with Gary Paffett and Jamie Green. Martin Tomczyk is currently running in P12. Why do I mention that? Well, he's about to get a drive-through penalty for his part in the collision that involved Maximilian Goertz and Adrien Tombe, and sure enough, there is the BMW driver into the pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty, so that's going to pummel him down the order. Drive-through penalty for causing an avoidable collision then, and Martin Tomczyk serves his penalty and rejoins the race right at the back of the pack. Fantastic helicopter shot picks up our leaders then as we zoom through the dunes here at Circuit Park Zandvoort around the back of the paddock, and the final turn sequence now, and Robert Wickens with a very healthy lead, I would guess, of about 8 or 9 tenths over Marco Wittmann, who of course is running in P2 and is also the points championship leader at the moment. Then it's Christian Vitoris in P3. Before a little bit further back it's Gary Paffett. 9 tenths between Wickens and Wittmann. And then Christian Vitoris is 1.6 seconds down on the lead and 7 tenths down on P2. Bruno Spengler goes past Timo Glock to move up a further place. So Spengler now running in P12. Timo Glock is P13. Ahead of them is Maxime Martin, also a BMW driver, and Daniel Juncadea and Esteban Ocon occupying the final 2 points paying positions at the moment. There's Spengler going through on Timo Glock, and that through the Tarzan turn. Very often you have to set that move up as you exit the final turn 13 here at Zandvoort. Get a good exit from turn 13, and that puts you in a perfect position to go for a move going through turn number 1. We're on board with Maxime Martin now as we see Augusto Farfus in the barriers. So the BMW driver Augusto Farfus is in the gravel trap. He is out. And we can see from being on board with fellow BMW driver Tom Blomqvist, just one wheel off the track and you can be in all sorts of trouble here at Zandvoort. You'll hear everyone say that this is an old school circuit. By that they mean there's no acres and acres of tarmac runoff area. Basically off the circuit it's either grass, gravel or even sand in some places, and therefore the track really does bite if you go off the circuit, and Augusto Farfus sadly proof of that. He's out of the race. In the meantime, Robert Wickens then has extended his lead by another 5 tenths. It's up to 1.6 as now Christian Vitoris really pushing Marco Wittmann ahead. So Marco Wittmann, who does not have DRS available to him, whereas Christian Vitoris does. So Marco Wittmann really having to put his elbows out and try and defend with all his might.
Green flag, turn 8-9.
So Marco Wittmann being advised that the yellows at turn 8 and 9 have turned to green. And Christian Vittoris continues to chase down the championship points leader and former champion Marco Wittmann in the BMW. This is Nico Müller in car number 51. Now he's serving a drive-through penalty for a slow zone speed infringement, and that's also going to affect Eduardo Mortara, who's currently running in P6. So Nico Müller then goes to the very back of the pack behind Martin Tomczyk, and out wide goes Timo Glock. Has to slow significantly to avoid running into the gravel trap, and there are a number of drivers get past him, including Paul di Resta and Lucas Auer, and Mike Rockenfeller just denied as Timo Glock gathers it all up and gets it back onto the tarmac, although Mike Rockenfeller goes for another go now and does go through. So Timo Glock losing a huge hunk of places in one. And here comes Eduardo Mortara then to serve that slow zone drive-through penalty. Failed to manage the slow zone. Nico Müller the same. And this really crucial for Eduardo Mortara because P2 in the points. And he was in a good position to score some good points, and that really has been compromised by that drive-through penalty as he rejoins now back in P19 with under 15 minutes of this race left to run. Matthias Ekström then is running in P7. He has Antonio Felix da Costa ahead of him, just under 3 tenths between the two of them, as you can see, as Antonio Felix da Costa to the outside. Matthias Ekström not quite quick enough to, or close enough rather, to be up the inside of Antonio Felix da Costa through the Tarzan turn, which is one of the few overtaking places here at the Circuit Park Zandvoort. So team radio from Christian Vittoris. I tend to have understood very much of what was being said there. We return to this battle that's going on, P6, P7 and P8 between Antonio Felix da Costa, Matthias Ekström there in the Red Bull liveried Audi, and Daniel Juncadella in the Mercedes-Benz behind. P6 for Antonio Felix da Costa, P7 for Matthias Ekström, P8 for Daniel Juncadella. Robert Wickens now with a very, very healthy 5.5 second margin over Marco Wittmann in P2. Then Christian Vittoris and Gary Paffett virtually welded together there, the two Mercedes-Benz drivers. Now, could be that Christian Vittoris has run out of DRS and Gary Paffett hasn't, so he's able to get ever closer. As too is Matthias Ekström and to Antonio Felix da Costa. Matthias is in this really awful position as Gary Paffett does go through on Christian Vittoris, and he'll try and take the chase to Marco Wittmann now. I was mentioning the Matthias Ekström situation where he's behind Antonio Felix da Costa, but ahead of Daniel Juncadella, so he's in the position where he's hunting and being hunted at the same time. So look at the pace that Gary Paffett has got now that he's been released from Christian Vittoris, but time has run out for him to get on terms surely with Marco Wittmann. And there we can see it again in replay. That wasn't made too difficult, was it? And Gary Paffett does go through, but as I say, I reckon any chances of him getting on the back of Marco Wittmann are probably futile now. There's just not enough of the race left. In fact, we're down to the last lap.
6.8 seconds. This is final lap. Final lap.
So final lap, and Gary Paffett gives the place back to Christian Vittoris. So what happened there was obviously with DRS left for Gary Paffett, they felt it was well worth an opportunity for Gary Paffett to try and have a go at Marco Wittmann, but time and laps just ran out. And still being denied by Antonio Felix da Costa is Matthias Ekström and also Daniel Juncadella. They're still running P6, P7 and P8, and Matthias Ekström, as you can see from the graphics on the left-hand side, if the name is red rather than white, that means that the DRS has run out for that particular driver. So those drivers without DRS at the end of the race are Vittoris, Ekström, Rockenfeller and Molina, as Uli Fritz looks on. He's about to witness his driver Robert Wickens, who, barring any absolute disaster through the final turn, should take victory in race one here at Zandvoort as he heads towards the checkered flag. Robert Wickens, race winner, race one, Zandvoort.
Okay, Rob, very, very well. Very nice, man. Very nice. Pick up rubber. Pick up rubber. Well done.
Yeah! Oh, that was awesome. Such a good job, guys. This is exactly what we needed. We deserve.
Exactly what they needed from the disappointing time at the Norris Ringers. Bruno Spengler and Paul di Resta get together there, and who does that advantage? Well, Lucas Auer and Mike Rockenfeller right at the end of the race. Here's a replay of Robert Wickens then taking the checkered flag, and For Robert Wickens, the Canadian racer, then it's the first win of season 2016. He's had a P2 and a couple of P3s, but will be absolutely delighted to take that win, as indeed are the team down there as well. In fact, it's a combo of teams as the Muka Motorsport run, Christian Vitoris takes a P3, and of course the HWA run, Robert Wickens is victorious. Here's Uli Fritz.
Robert did really a great job after the safety car. He just could pull a big gap and drive his own race. So really great day for him, pole position, and then a really good victory here. So we're really happy to win this here in Zandvoort, because that's a long time ago we could win here. So pretty happy for the team.
Here is the race classification then. Robert Wickens taking the win from Marco Wittmann and Christian Vitoris. Gary Pafford and Jamie Green P4 and P5 for the British drivers. Page 2 of the screen then, and that reinforces the fact that during the course of the race, out went Augusto Farfus, Adrien Tombe, Maximilian Gertz. Let's hear from our race winner now.
We definitely needed this after Nürburgring, and I can't thank the guys enough. We actually had a pretty difficult day. We had a power steering failure in practice, and then qualifying was last minute, and then to get the pole and then win it today. I mean, the wins for the guys, it's for the team. I wouldn't be here without them, and now we have to try to do it again tomorrow.
Well, the combination of the HWA team for Robert Wickens and the Muka Motorsport team for Christian Vitoris, certainly very noisy and very vocal down there as they watch the podium unfold, and Robert Wickens holds his trophy aloft. Let's hear from Christian Vitoris.
Well, I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest. I was so much faster than Marco, but I had no chance to pass him, because he's the only place where he was fastest on the straight, and that's obviously the only place where he can overtake here at that track. So, still a good result, but tomorrow I definitely want to be on P2 or P1.
So Marco Wittmann still heads the points chart on 93 points, ahead of Robert Wickens now, who is P2. And Robert Wickens has jumped a number of places to put Eduardo Mortara back to P3. Of course, that not helped by Edo receiving that drive-through penalty during race 1. Let's hear from Marco Wittmann.
It was a good day for us, good qualifying, good race. Robert was a bit quicker than us, so there was no chance, especially after the slow zone. I struggled a bit to switch on my tires again, I had to use more my rear mirror to watch Christian to defend. But at the end, I think today they were a bit quicker than us, but we made it to P2, so I'm happy.
And Robert Wickens holds the trophy up high then, delighted with his win here at Zandvoort in race number 1. Can he do it all over again in race number 2, which of course is a slightly longer race, 60 minutes plus 1 lap and a mandatory pit stop as well? We will see. And here comes the grid for race 10 in the DTM season 2016, an all-British front row with Jamie Green and Gary Pafford going from P1 and P2. Then we find Christian Vitoris and Eduardo Mortara, P3 and P4. It's Robert Wickens, winner of race 1, going from P5, with the BMW driver Timo Glock on P6. To the 4th row of the grid, we find Marco Wittmann, the points championship leader, and Esteban Ocon. Another good qualifying from him. Matthias Ekstrom and Nico Muller share row 5. 60 minutes plus 1 lap for Tom Blomqvist and Miguel Molina to do some good from row 6 on the grid. And we find Paul de Resta and Bruno Spengler going from P13 and P14. Antonio Felix da Costa and Martin Tomczyk go P15 and P16. Augusto Farfus didn't finish race 1. He goes from P17 with Mike Rockenfeller alongside him. Then we find Lucas Auer and Timo Scheider on the 10th row of the grid. Maxime Martin, P21, and René Rast, P22. He's in for the injured Adrien Tombe. And at the back, it's Maximilian Gertz, who didn't even complete a lap yesterday, and Daniel Juncker-Deya. And from the grid graphics, we go on to the grid then. It's the longer race, 60 minutes plus 1 lap, and the mandatory pit stop as well. Yesterday's race winner, Robert Wickens, he goes from P5.
As a driver, you always have to check your mirrors to make sure you're not, cutting someone off and causing an incident. So, he's good at starts. I know that already from yesterday, but I know I'm strong as well. So I'm definitely going to be trying to attack and not defend him.
Edo Mortara goes from P4. A slow zone time infringement yesterday compromised his race with a drive-through penalty. Edo explains.
Yeah, apparently I was driving too fast, which was not the case. And race direction actually, yeah, they said that actually they made a mistake or there was a problem with the system. So tough luck, yeah, but that was yesterday, and I mean, there's nothing we can do about it anymore. We just have to stay positive, keep fighting. We're starting from P4, which is not too bad, and with a good start, you know, we are close to the podium.
Marco Wittmann then, his P2 yesterday, giving him some valuable points and means that he's still atop the championship table. A full 10 points ahead of P2 in the championship now, Robert Wickens. However, he's got some work to do, as Marco, from P7 on the grid. Going from P6 then is Timo Glock, the Deutsche Post BMW M4 DTM driver, from P6 on the grid. Head of DTM for BMW Motorsport is Jens Marquardt, who's down on the grid. Let's hear from him.
I mean, qualifying was tough, yeah, with a red flag and everything. I think we still have a good potential. Today is also with a pit stop and strategy, so I think we're well prepared. We have a good pack of cars also just outside of the top 10. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement here today.
It was P3 for Christian Vitouris in race 1 here at Zandvoort, and a qualifying time of 1:37.92 gives him P3 on the grid for race 2. Gary Paffett equalled his best finish in 2016 so far with a P4 yesterday to mirror that P4 he took in race 2 at Hockenheim. He's qualified well today to give him a front row start for this race in Zandvoort. Gary Paffett goes from P2. It is hotter in Zandvoort for race 2. How will that affect the cars? Let's find out from the Mercedes-Benz DTM chief, Uli Fritz.
For sure, the hotter weather will have implications on the track temperature and therefore the tire degradation. So, yeah, not really sure what to expect here. We will see in the next hour.
In race 1, it was a P5 finish for Jamie Green, and he was fastest in qualifying for race 2. So it's a pole position start for the British driver Jamie Green for race 2 at Zandvoort, and ahead of the race we go into the garages of the manufacturers. First of all, Audi, the pole sitters. Then it's BMW with Jens Marquardt right in the centre of the picture, and Mercedes-Benz as well with Uli Fritz to the very left of the image there, ahead of the start of race 2 here at Zandvoort. As the engine note rises now, we have 5 lights. The lights are out and Jamie Green will immediately try and dive to the inside, but it was a good start from Gary Paffett as well. Also a good start from Eduardo Mortara and Robert Wickens. And look at that, Gary Paffett all over the back of Jamie Green, just trying to find a way through, but he is denied. So Jamie Green leads from Gary Paffett as they exit turn number 1. Robert Wickens is up to P3. As they go through the sweeping turn 2 and then into turn 3. So Green, Paffett, Wickens, Vitouris, Mortara, Wittmann occupying the top 6 positions then as they head towards the back of the circuit here at Zandvoort. Some jostling going on between Augusto Farfus and Maxime Martin. Right in the middle of the picture now, they're side by side. Augusto Farfus does get the better of the BMW battle there, and he's ahead of Maxime Martin as the helicopter continues to track the car's progress around this 4.3 kilometre circuit at Zandvoort. So we watch from camera position up on high the very start, and you can see just how close Gary Paffett got to Jamie Green, but Jamie Green just slowly closing the door and making sure the inside line to go into turn 1 was going to be protected. Paul di Resta, as you can see, from the middle of the grid straight on to the inside, and there on the left hand side is the start reaction graphic. Mortara was good, Timo Glock was good, so too Esteban Ocon and Matthias Ekstrom. This is the reason that Martin and Farfus were fighting, is because Farfus was out on the gravel, whether he was assisted there by Mike Rockefeller, and Maxime Martin then really battling with the car. And there we can see Augusto Farfus out onto the gravel, and that's where Maxime Martin got right alongside him. Bruno Spengler has to come into the pits with an open door.
Okay, Robert, gap 2 car behind, 0.6, you are in P3, gap 2 car in front, 0.2.
So Bruno Spengler rejoins the race then, but his race already compromised by virtue of the fact that he's had to come into the pits already. And also in strife is Timo Scheider, who was hit by Augusto Farfus, as you can see here, which sends Scheider into a spin and pirouette on the grass. You can see it from on board the Maxime Martin car. So Timo Scheider, he's had some rotten luck this season.
He hit me on the rear right, going to turn 2. You can call it bad luck, but in the end we had a tough weekend anyway so far. But yeah, he got the drive-through for that right now. So I think in the end he deserved that at least. But we had to stop the car because the suspension is bended, so due to safety reasons we had to stop.
Well, of course, the drive-through penalty doesn't help. Timo Scheider is out of the race, as he said, with broken suspension. Right, Robert Wickens gets past Gary Paffett then, and the chase will be on to Jamie Green. It's Audi, then 3 Mercedes together there in a row, which is going to be a real problem for Eduardo Mortara, who's running in P5, because difficult enough to overtake here at Zandvoort, and when you've got opposing manufacturers who've got 3 cars ahead of you, it's always going to be made ever more difficult. In replay then, this is Robert Wickens getting past Gary Paffett. So Robert Wickens can now begin to try and chase down Jamie Green, who is leading the race in the Audi. Robert Wickens now P2, Gary Paffett P3. Augusto Farfus then had a torrid weekend, hasn't he? Gets a drive-through penalty now. And that for the instant with Timo Scheider. Here it is in replay. Going for a gap that was closing, and unfortunately the contact between himself and Timo Scheider sent Timo pirouetting into the tyres and actually has ended his race. So the chase is on now at the front of the pack then, as Jamie Green leads from Robert Wickens, Gary Paffett, Christian Vitouris, then it's Eduardo Mortara. Now, strategy of course can play a part in this race because there is a mandatory pit stop to be taken. If Jamie Green elects to stay out, they may well decide to bring Robert Wickens in early. We will see how it will play out. Jamie Green from Robert Wickens, and Wickens is closing the gap. Of course, Robert has DRS available to him, whereas Jamie doesn't because he has no one in front of him. You've got to be within a second of the car ahead of you. Wish I could have understood that. We could see a Mercedes garage getting ready for a pit stop. In comes Jamie Green, and so too Robert Wickens. Well, Mercedes going to try and vault the Audi in the pit stops. I would have thought with Jamie Green coming in early that perhaps they'd have left Robert Wickens out there, but let's see how they do. Robert Wickens, his pit stop done and dusted. He's away.
Traffic on the way out in front. You should be clear now. Watch.
Clear, Jamie. Clear. Push.
Watch the white line.
Well, I would say the Rosberg team doing a slightly better pit stop than the HWA team. So Audi ahead of Mercedes-Benz, and Jamie Green has actually gained some tenths in the pit stop, as you can see, because Robert Wickens is nothing like as close to him as he was when they came in. Leader of the race, though, Gary Paffett and Christian Vitouris now. Those that have pitted, you can see at the bottom end of your graphics to the left-hand side of your screen. We've seen Green in, Wickens in, also Wittmann, Da Costa, Blomqvist and Bruno Spengler. The rest of the order still to pit. So let's see in replay then the Rosberg team on Jamie Green's car. Very quick time indeed, and they're out. In comes Gary Paffett now. So the ART team standing by for the Gary Paffett Mercedes-Benz.
26 laps to go.
Okay, Robert. Audi is struggling with tyre deck. So don't use the DRS straight away.
Well, DRS is available in the race, but there's limited usage, so Robert Wickens being advised to just take advantage of the Audi's tyre degradation rather than using the DRS to try and get up close to Jamie Green, who is leading the race. It was a poor stop for Gary Paffett, unfortunately, and there is Eduardo Mortara, who's currently running in P2 with Christian Vitouris leading the race, but those two cars, along with Ocon, Muller, Ekstrom, Molina, Auer, Gertz, Rockefeller, René Rast, who of course is deputising for the injured Adrian Tombe, and Daniel Juncadella, all still to pit. So there is Christian Vitouris, there is Eduardo Mortara, and the gap between them, as you can see, has come down. So Christian Vitouris, Mercedes, we're on board with Eduardo Mortara's at Sportsline Audi right now. Brilliant onboard shot. Just watch the feet at the bottom left-hand Side of your picture there, the left foot braking going on from Eduardo Mortara. The paddle that you can see in the middle of the picture, the curious yellow thing, that adjusts the brake bias between front and rear. It's a very short pit in here at Zandvoort as Eduardo Mortara scrubs the speed off and pit limiter comes in, pit speed limiter. So Christian Vitouris and Eduardo Mortara both in at the same time. So the Audi AB team will be going like heck to try and beat the Muka team of Mercedes-Benz and get Mortara out ahead of Christian Vitouris. Is it going to work? It's a good stop from the AB team, and they're out, but they're side by side. Was that an unsafe release potentially for Eduardo Mortara? But Christian Vitouris just managing to get out ahead of the Audi, and Gary Paffett going around the outside now, as you can see. So Gary Paffett ahead of Christian Vitouris and ahead of Eduardo Mortara. And crucially, Vitouris getting out ahead of Eduardo Mortara, who we're on board with right now. So as we watch the cars from our helicopter shot, the new leader of the race is Esteban Ocon with Nico Muller P2 and Matthias Ekstrom P3. And of course those cars are yet to pit. So this was the Eduardo car being released. Now, I did say unsafe release, and that will always be a pit engineer's decision whether he was released into the path of Vitouris.
Okay, Robert, so gap to car in front is 1.1 seconds, and it looks like everyone basically held position.
That's how we read it as well. More team radio now.
Okay, Robert, gap is 0.5.
And both Jamie Green and Robert Wickens with back-marking cars ahead of them that they've got to try and get through this traffic. First of all, it's Daniel Juncker-Deya, and ahead of them in the number 72 car, which is the Adrien Tombe car, but is being driven by René Rast following the injury to Adrien Tombe. Well, Jamie Green will presumably have no problem getting past the René Rast car. Defence might be a little bit more robust, though, when it comes to Robert Wickens trying to get past.
He's informed.
Copy. You should move after the start finish line and let me know.
So, team radio, the first part of that, I think, be informed, or he's informed, would suggest that René Rast knew that you've got to get out of the way. And this is Robert Wickens now, trying to fight his way past Mike Rockenfeller.
So those guys around you now still need to pit.
And you can see just how hard Robert is trying to find a way past Mike Rockenfeller. Of course, always an inter-manufacturer battle that's going on as well. There's Gary Paffett, who's equally finding it difficult to get past Mike Rockenfeller. I mean, the Zandvoort circuit is difficult enough to overtake on anyway, so it's quite easy for drivers to be very, very defensive, and valuable tenths can be lost and won in the fight with traffic.
Stay with Miguel, please.
So the reason Jamie Green wants to stay with Miguel Molina is so that he can get into the DRS window and have DRS availability if Miguel Molina is less than a second ahead of him. So, interestingly, they want Molina to stay out there the same as Matthias Ekstrom. Now, if anyone can make used tyres really work, Matthias Ekstrom is the man to be able to do that, and he's staying out there as we see a retirement now with a wheel missing from the Maximilian Goertz car. The torrid weekend Maximilian Goertz has had this weekend at Zandvoort, so the number 84 car is out of the race. So, retirement for Maximilian Goertz. Well, that's Esteban Ocon, who's being really rather unceremoniously dumped out onto the grass there by Antonio Felix da Costa. And there's Maximilian Goertz, who loses his wheel. So we get two incidents in replay for the price of one there. And Maximilian Goertz, obviously with three wheels on the car, cannot continue and has to get the car off the track, which he does, into a position of safety. At long last, in comes Matthias Ekstrom. So the order we have on the left-hand side of your screen is the right order now. So Matthias Ekstrom comes in for his pit stop, and a very good one, 2.9 seconds. And that's going to feed Matthias Ekstrom back out into what may be P15 behind Blomqvist. It depends, because he's got Lucas Au right on his outside. Is Lucas Au going to squeeze and squeeze? So actually Lucas Au is P14, Matthias Ekstrom P15. In there from Lucas Au, who was not going to be denied by the Matthias Ekstrom Audi. We're on board with Lucas Au now, and the incident between car 34 Esteban Ocon and car number 13 Antonio Felix da Costa, which we saw, is going to be investigated by the stewards. So we stay on board with Lucas Au, and oh, now this is Molina.
Brake, steer to the right a bit, steer to the right into grass.
Well, damage to the front of car means Molina cannot see where he's going, and he's having to be guided, if you like, by his engineers.
I will forward the information.
Looks like it was contact with Antonio Felix da Costa.
That was dangerous.
Yes, we could see it in the replay that he was raking on the straight.
Not absolutely sure I agree with that, but contact means that he's unsighted.
Into the box, forward into your box.
Can't even find his way into his the garage now, so we see that in various replays there. The contact between Molina and Antonio Felix da Costa means that he's out of the race. Right, let's go back to the battle at the front then, that Jamie Green is leading and increasing the lead over Robert Wickens, who's running in P2. Then it's Gary Paffett, P3, and Christian Vitouris, P4. Through the chicane, they go around the back of the paddock area here at Zandvoort. Jamie Green in a very, very commanding position here. Lucas Auer goes for a move on Martin Tomczyk here, and this will be the move of the race if he can pull it off. And he jolly well can. What a fantastic overtake from Lucas Auer, which is for the final points-paying position in P10. What a brilliant overtake. Lucas Auer holding on for everything there and making that move stick. Well, it's one of the best overtakes we've ever watched, Lucas. Around the outside of the Tarzan turn. Brilliant stuff as he gets past Martin Tomczyk. Look how much speed he was carrying into the turn.
9 laps remaining, including this one.
So 9 laps remaining as the Muka Motorsport team congratulate.
Good job, Lucas. Good job. Keep going.
Lucas Auer, and Robert Wickens off onto the grass.
Hey, Robert, confirm your boxing. Confirm your boxing.
Oh, that really has compromised Robert Wickens' race. He was chasing down Jamie Green.
Confirm box.
Puncture for Robert Wickens. He's going to have to try and nurse that car back to the pit lane. And so much grass in the cooling vents at the front of that Robert Wickens car as well. That's all going to have to be scraped away, but his race really compromised. So let's see from the heli shot here.
15 seconds. Pit stop Wickens. Tyre set 7.
Robert doing a very good job to keep the car out of the barriers there. I wonder if that tyre just let go all of a sudden. Let's hear from him.
Just about 5 laps from the end, I got a puncture on the left front tyre, and still we need to investigate what caused it, but at the moment it just came out of nowhere. A puncture in turn 8, and well, that happened in turn 7 and then went off in turn 8, but just it's a real shame. You know, we're doing a job that's good enough to win a championship this year, but we're not getting the luck to go along with it.
Suspension, I think.
Well, it's not only Robert Wickens.
Okay, stay offline, stay offline. The car's now behind you.
Christian Vitouris too. And Lucas Auer struggling with traffic, but Christian Vitouris with a puncture as well. So Robert Wickens and Christian Vitouris both with left-hand front punctures.
Well, I had a puncture. Front left gave up on the straight, which is a bit strange. I mean, I could expect it in the corners, but on the straight, never had that before. Anyway, the game or the race was over at that time. I tried to come back to the pits, but I've lost so much time doing that lap that sending me out again was useless. So we stopped the car and retired the car, and that's it.
So Vitouris out, but Wickens still running.
You are in P19, 5 laps to go.
And let's hear from Uli Fritz from Mercedes-Benz.
It looks like both have had a failure of the left front tire. Yeah, we need to analyze it afterwards, but at the moment it looks like it was 2 flat tires, yeah.
You have got to be kidding me.
So team radio from Robert Wickens tells it all, doesn't it, as Lucas Auer gets passed by Matthias Ekstrom. We can see it from being on board the Lucas Auer car as Matthias Ekstrom in the Audi goes through. Slight lock up there from Lucas Auer, and that was enough for Matthias Ekstrom to be able to take advantage.
Also Di Resta overtake, and Wittmann is also in trouble.
So that puts Matthias Ekstrom P8, Lucas Auer now P9. Marco Wittmann is running P4, Nico Muller P5. Let's hear from Marco.
It was a good weekend for us. Yesterday P2, today P4. So we scored good points, 30 points, which are important for the championship. And yeah, I mean, the goal was to make some positions up from P7 starting. And that's what we did, actually.
Well, as Marco mentions P7, that's exactly the battle that we watch now. It is the battle for P7. It's Paul de Resta at the moment who occupies that position, but Matthias Ekström chasing very hard, and we track this battle as it continues around the Zandvoort circuit here. Paul de Resta Mercedes-Benz, Matthias Ekström for Audi, and Matthias Ekström does go through going into that turn, and he manages to occupy that P7 place now and puts Paul de Resta back down to P8, who we're on board with currently. So a swap of positions there. DRS now being used by Matthias Ekström. As you can see, the rear wing goes down, and we can see from the splitter cam on board the Paul de Resta car, the back end of Matthias Ekström through the chicane round the back of the paddock here. Jamie Green, though, been absolutely faultless out front and heads towards the checkered flag to take his first win in season 2016. Jamie Green, race winner at Zandvoort.
Well done, I think they call it awesome in English. Very well done, Jamie, great job. So we need some pickup and a pretty slow in-lap, please. Get as much pickup as you can.
As they say in English, awesome. I think that perfectly describes the drive from Jamie Green.
And that was a tough one, I have to say. He was very much under pressure in the very beginning. So basically we were forced into the strategy and stopping in the first lap, and we knew it would be tight with the tires towards the end. But Jamie managed that in an excellent way. And if we look at the complete Audi result, 1.357, couldn't have asked for more, I think.
And this is fantastic to see as well. It's how a race driver should celebrate a fine victory. Jamie Green doing donuts at the chicane. Very, very good to see. Real entertainer. And it doesn't stop when he gets back to Parc Ferme either. Jamie Green jumping into his team. Really fine way to celebrate a race win. Here's the result in full then. Jamie Green taking the win from Gary Paffett, Eduardo Mortara. Then it was Wittmann, Muller, Glock, Ekström, Paul de Resta, Lucas Auer and Tom Blomqvist rounding out the top 10 with Martin Tomczyk P11, Daniel Juncker-Deya P12. We'll get the second page of the result, and that confirms those drivers that were out of the race. 5 of them: Christian Vitoris, Maxime Martin, Miguel Molina, Maximilian Goertz, and also Timo Scheider. Jamie receives his trophy then on the top step of the podium. Gary being assisted by young family member, which is good to see as well. And big thumbs up for Jamie Green. And let's hear from P2, Gary Paffett.
Hey Gary, congratulations, a second place. You seem very happy about it. How was the race for you?
Yeah, great. I mean, it's more the relief. With such a good weekend. We've had really tough weekends up until now, tough season, but this weekend the car's been perfect. We've been the first 2 rows on the grid both days, and a podium, a second place today after 4th yesterday. So yeah, fantastic. I mean, just can't say thank you enough to the team of Mercedes. The car was great all weekend.
2 of your teammates had problems with the tires. Were you getting a bit nervous, or didn't you even notice or hear about that?
I did hear, obviously I heard. They told me what the problem was. So I was a bit careful. I never felt anything. I never had a problem. But at the end, with Ed, it was one of the slowest ends to the race we've ever seen. I mean, we were all cruising around to make sure we didn't get a problem. So yeah, he had big deg, maybe. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, up until that point, it was a good race. So I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Gary. Who are you taking? Gary. So I'm just going to grab really quickly Edo since you're here and no one's interrupting. So congratulations to a 3rd place. How was the race for you?
Well, it was a long race with big dramas towards the end, because we had quite some degradation on the front tires, and I was starting to have like really a lot of vibrations. So when I saw the failures on the others, I decided to cruise and bring this podium back home. I mean, we're very happy actually for Audi. It's a good day for us. After yesterday, I think it's a good day to forget about yesterday. Yeah.
Well, in the Drivers' Championship, Marco Wittmann is still at the top on 105 points. Jamie Green, P2 in the championship, now on 98 and 10 points ahead of P3, Eduardo Mortara. OK, Verena down there on the podium. Let's hear from our race winner, Jamie Green.
For me, winning in Zandvoort is something I've not done in DTM, so it really means a lot to me. This is a proper racetrack, and to win here is something I've been wanting to achieve for a long time.
Well, Mr. Green, you have achieved it, and achieved it in style as he celebrates on the podium. Short break now for the DTM drivers before the season resumes at the Moscow Raceway in Russia.
What a fantastic weekend we had here in Zandvoort. Very exciting indeed. And now we've got a summer break and we're going to see you in August in Moscow. So take care, see you soon. Here are the highlights. Bye-bye.